Shakespeare's plays were written over 400 years ago, and life back then was very different from today. To really understand his works, it's important to know a bit about the context in which he was writing. Here are some key things to consider when studying Shakespeare: society, class, the role of women, religion, and the belief in the supernatural. Shakespeare lived in England during the late 1500s and early 1600s, a time known as the Elizabethan and Jacobean periods. Society was very structured, with strict rules about how people should behave based on their position or class. The way people thought, believed, and lived was heavily influenced by their position in society, and these ideas are often reflected in Shakespeare's plays. For instance, issues of power, loyalty, honor, and ambition were important themes because of how society worked back then. In Shakespeare's time, class, or social status, was extremely important. There were three main classes: the nobility, the wealthy and powerful, including kings and queens; the gentry, wealthy landowners who weren't quite royalty; the common people, farmers, tradespeople, and servants. Your class determined everything: what job you could have, where you could live, and even how much respect you got from others. Many of Shakespeare's plays reflect this strict class system. In Romeo and Juliet, the conflict between the Montagues and Capulets reflects how class and family status could control people's lives. In Macbeth, the struggle for power and ambition highlights how people in higher classes often fought to keep or gain more power. Shakespeare's plays often explore what happens when characters step outside their class or try to rise above their status, something that was considered dangerous or risky at the time. In Shakespeare's time, women had far fewer rights than men. They couldn't vote, own property in their own right, or hold positions of power. Women were expected to marry and obey their husbands. Society saw women as weaker and less capable than men. Shakespeare often challenges these ideas in his plays by creating strong female characters, but these characters usually still have to follow the rules of the time. In Macbeth, Lady Macbeth is a powerful and ambitious character who pushes her husband to murder the king, but she eventually suffers for stepping out of her traditional role as a submissive wife. In The Taming of the Shrew, Catherine, the Shrew, is strong-willed and independent, but by the end of the play she is pressured to conform to the expectations of women in her society. Women in Shakespeare's plays are often very smart, brave, and influential, but they also live in a world that limits their freedom. Religion was incredibly important in Shakespeare's time, and England was a very religious country. The country was divided between Protestants and Catholics, and religious tensions often led to conflict. The monarch, Queen Elizabeth I and later King James I, had a big influence on religious beliefs, and people could be punished for having the wrong religion. In Hamlet, the theme of heaven and hell and the afterlife is crucial. Hamlet is unsure if the ghost of his father is from heaven or hell, which influences his decisions throughout the play. Shakespeare often used religious references in his plays, and many characters struggle with questions about morality, sin and forgiveness, issues that were deeply connected to the religious beliefs of the time. People in Shakespeare's time strongly believed in the supernatural, things like ghosts, witches, and magic. These beliefs played a big role in how people understood the world around them. The supernatural was often seen as a sign of chaos, danger, or the unknown. In Macbeth, the three witches are key to the plot. They predict Macbeth's rise to power and downfall, and their supernatural powers create a sense of mystery and danger. In Hamlet, the ghost of Hamlet's father sets the entire plot in motion, making the audience wonder if Hamlet is really seeing a ghost or if he's imagining it. Shakespeare used the supernatural to explore human fears, ambitions, and the limits of our understanding, reflecting how people of his time viewed the world as being full of mysterious and unexplainable forces. Understanding the context of Shakespeare's plays helps you see why characters behave the way they do, and why certain themes, like class, ambition, or the supernatural, are so important. Life in Shakespeare's time was different from today, but his plays still speak to universal human experiences. Knowing about the world he lived in helps you better appreciate the depth of his stories and how they've remained relevant for more than 400 years.